Hello, Bravo bosses, and welcome to the Bravo Investigator Podcast with me, your host, Dana. Today on our Monday Reality Roundup, we are talking about The Real Housewives of OC, The Valley, The Real Housewives of New Jersey, The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, The Real Housewives of Miami, Next Gen NYC, and Southern Hospitality. Let's get into it. Happy Monday, everyone. I hope everyone had a great weekend. Mine was actually okay. I know I usually come into the podcast complaining, but last week at work was actually pretty okay. It was my first week without my manager. She's now on mat leave. And so now we have our interim people, and it's actually been going pretty well. So I think that's a good thing because I don't want to feel as stressed about work as I have been. I want to feel stressed about the podcast. And I say that because I stress about things that I care about a lot. And so I want to be less stressed about work so that I can focus on the podcast and content creating and be stressed about that. But that being said, I missed you guys, and I'm sorry I didn't do mini recaps over the weekend. I was thinking, you know what? The Real Housewives of OC in Miami were a little bit like filler episodes this past week. So I thought, you know what? Why don't we just do the reality roundup on Monday? I'll cover the Real Housewives of Miami today in terms of the recap. But the Real Housewives of OC, there's a lot of news today. Let's be real. There was a whole press tour last week that Katie did, that Kiki did, that Tamra did. So we're going to get into all of those interviews today. But in terms of the recap of the episode, and in terms of just a deep dive as to what's going on behind the scenes, the Kiki of it all, I felt like that deserved its own episode. So tomorrow I am going to be recording with Bravo, Ducking Bravo. You may know her from her podcast, High and Low, which is a really, really amazing deep dive podcast about Bravo, about rants, about movies, about whatever she finds fit. And I've really always liked her vibe. I've really liked listening to her on other podcasts. I really like her takes. So I'm really excited to have her on the pod. I'm going to release that on Tuesday. So it'll be really exciting to just do a full deep dive of all things Real Housewives of OC. We'll also get to hear from someone who knows Kiki Monique personally, and we'll just get more of a sense of what's really going on there. So for today, we're going to be talking about the news when it comes to the Real Housewives of OC. And yeah, we have some other cool stuff on the horizon. We have Salt Lake City is coming back soon. Salt Lake City is coming back in a week. So I'm really excited about that. Potomac, I think, is coming back on October 6th or 5th, I think. And, we have these weird couple of filler weeks where there isn't really anything. We just finished McBee Dynasty, which I was covering over on the Patreon. Oh, by the way, the Patreon, if you guys have a chance to join, it's $5 a month for 4 extra podcast episodes a month, as well as ad-free episodes, as well as early episodes, as well as just lots of fun bonus content. So if you want to join the Patreon, you will also have access to everything I've covered on the Patreon so far, which is the entire first season of Next Gen NYC, Love Island Beyond the Villa. I did that whole season as well. I also covered the entire second season of McBee Dynasty, and I covered Honestly Cavallari, the headline tour, that whole season as well. So lots of fun stuff on the Patreon. And then I just started a new tier at the Patreon, a $10 tier. So it'll get you everything that you have in the $5 tier, but it'll also get you one documentary recap a month. So last month I did Fit for TV, The Reality of the Biggest Loser, and that was really fun. This month, I don't know if I'm going to do Unknown Caller, the high school catfish, because I feel like everyone's been talking about it. That documentary is so fucking wild. If you haven't seen it yet, please go watch it. It's so crazy. But I feel like so many other people have done recaps on it, so maybe I'll save it for something else. I mean, there's so many fun documentaries out there, but yeah, that's what you'll get on the other tier. So you can come and join us on patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator Podcast. Make sure that you join on a desktop or browser and not through the app, because it'll charge you incremental fees. So we'd love to have you there. We're having such a fun time. But let's get into the episode because we have lots to talk about today. So what I'm going to do is go through the media tour that Katie and Kiki and Tamra did regarding the Real Housewives of OC. And I'm going to give my thoughts here and there, but I just don't want to get too deep into it because I want to save it for my conversation with Bravo, Ducking Bravo, just because we're going to really deep dive all things OC. So Katie was on the Viall Files because, of course, and just to mention, she did put out there, because people were kind of asking, why is she doing this whole media tour? Bravo can't possibly be happy with this. Bravo is the one who set up this media tour for her. So they're well aware and they're well in the know as to what's going on. So she said on the Viall Files that she does not want to talk about Kiki because it gives her more attention than she wants, that she wants. Now, I do want to jump in here and make this point about Kiki as someone who has engaged with her for such a long time, as someone who has been really kind to me. I just want to say that that is not the impression of Kiki that I have. Now, I understand that why people who see her on television in this very small way, like we do with all reality stars, we only get these little glimpses into them, right? And so we base our opinions based on what we see. But I feel like this situation is a bit different because, or at least for the content creators, it feels a bit different because Kiki is someone that we know on the back end, and we know that she's a good person, and we know that she's not out for clout, and we know that she is not the kind of person who tries to get attention. That's just not who she is. But I can understand why, to the public who doesn't know her, it comes off a different way. Now, Katie is perpetuating that narrative. She is definitely the one going out there saying, well, Kiki is a clout chaser and Kiki wants attention. And that's why she continues to say that I'm the one that told her about the Roofie rumor, which you are. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight that one point that is the one thing that for some reason Katie seems to want to die on. That's the hill that she wants to die on, that she did not tell Kiki. And I do understand why, from the public's view, that seems, strange that Kiki wouldn't want clout, or that isn't who Kiki is. But, I just want to say that from the other side, from the other perspective, from those of us who actually do know her, we just know that she's not like that. And so it gets kind of frustrating when we hear the fandom say something different based on what they feel they've seen of her on TV, right? And the other thing about Kiki is that she doesn't have a team. She doesn't have like PR because she's not a reality star, right? So if she is handling this maybe not in the best way, I think that's also kind of fair, which, you know, listen, we all make mistakes in how we handle things, right? I mean, I've seen people be canceled left, right, and center, and I've never seen someone handle it correctly, to be honest with you, right? I'm not really saying that to defend her. Like, I really wish that she was handling this maybe a bit better, but I think it's because she doesn't have that proper backing behind her that maybe everyone else in the Bravo sphere does have. So, in going on, Katie said that she and her husband have been in the media for years, so it's not abnormal for her to be friends with people in the media. I feel like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense in terms of her being friends with, quote unquote bloggers, right? And for argument's sake, bloggers, for the purposes of like this season, are really just content creators, podcasters, whatever. So yeah, I mean, they have been in media for a long time. Matt himself has a journalism degree, right? So I guess I do understand it from that perspective. Now, she says that Kiki told her that everything they talked about was off the record. So I can understand why she would be upset with Kiki for at least spreading the Gina rumor, right? Because on screen, what we saw Kiki say was, okay, Gina, Katie also said this thing about you, about how like she saw you wearing certain kinds of designers and how you said you were going to be wearing Asian designers on the show. And then she said to you, like, oh, is that an Asian designer? When she saw you wearing something that wasn't Asian. So, she really didn't like that comment. And she felt like no one should tell her how Asian she should be. She said that what she actually said was like she wanted to try to highlight Asian designers on the show. And, even some of her stylists came out and said that, like, they actually showed, like, a lot of the looks that they gave her for the season. And a lot of them were Asian designers or even from Asian creative directors. And all of those types of people are not the types of people that Gina would even know. So from that perspective, I do really understand what Katie's saying. I mean, she is a Korean adoptee. She is and she grew up like in a white family, right? So her coming to an identity as an Asian woman is sort of her own, and it's something that she's continuing to grow into and continuing to try to do. So I think it's completely understandable and reasonable that she may want to decide to highlight Asian designers on the show, but at the same time, I completely understand what she's saying when she's saying no one gets to decide how Asian I get to be. If she wants to highlight Asian designers by wearing one Asian design per season, that's her prerogative. And it is very weird of Gina to make that comment. When I initially heard it, as someone who's not a person of color, I didn't feel comfortable being the one to say whether it was racist or not. I feel like it is a personal thing. And for Katie, I understand where she's coming from, especially because, like, of all the things for Gina to, kind of come down on Katie for, like, I get that she didn't like her at that point, but like, for her to make it something that's racialized just seems a bit strange. Of all things that she could come down on Katie for, that just seems like the weird one. She insists that she did not bring up the Gretchen thing at all to Kiki. She said that they did not discuss Gretchen whatsoever, which, you know, is a bit strange that that came up. She said that Matt told Slade that he was on the other line with Alex Baskin, which we did hear when Matt was on the Don't Let It Stew podcast. He was saying that, you know, we've got Alex Baskin on the other line. He's really upset. You have to hold the line and you have to back up Gretchen because Gretchen could get in a lot of trouble. Now, this was going on when the cast was in New Orleans. And, you know, we even saw during the episode this past week, Matt showing all these, like, his call log basically with Slade showing like all these calls. And if it wasn't really about anything, then why would there be all of these calls? But the hill, like I said, that she wants to die on is that she didn't tell Kiki. Now, I do have a theory about why she is trying to die on this hill, but I'm going to get to it at the end when we get to the end of the press tour. Okay. So then Kiki went on the Carlos King podcast, and her version of the story is that she went to lunch with Katie in October. And this is because so she obviously has the Reality Check podcast on Sirius XM under Radio Andy with Dorinda, and Jen and Katie were on that podcast or were on a podcast episode. So she had a group chat with them. And then one day she was in the OC. She hit them up. She was like, hey, I'm going out to lunch with some friends. Do you guys want to come? Jen couldn't come. Katie came. So that's when, according to Kiki, that Katie told her about Naked Wasted. And that's when she was like, wait, is Gretchen coming back? Because she thought it was weird that Gretchen was even being mentioned at this point. Now, Katie didn't really give her an answer on that, but that's just, you know, sort of how it goes. And then she says, well, like, did you know Gretchen had to go to the hospital and there were drugs in her system? And that's when, like, Kiki was sort of questioning it, like, wait, like, how did this never come up before? Like, what happened after that? And Katie was like, I don't know. That's sort of all I know. So in her mind, she sort of questioned how this never came up. Now, with the Gina thing, that conversation was more like Katie was trying to explain to her as like, you know, another woman of color, how there can be like these stereotypes within the show. And that's why Katie told Kiki about this, because she felt like they were having sort of one of those moments between two people of color and they were just having a conversation about how white people can be like so ignorant, right? And so, you know, for that, Kiki was actually kind of side-eyeing Gina for that. And so her explanation for bringing up the Gina thing at the lunch with Gina and Gretchen was because, one, she wanted to see how Gina would react to it, because one, she was side-eyeing it, but two, she actually asked producers for Gina to be there because she didn't feel comfortable with it just being Gretchen, because Gretchen was one of the people who was at this dinner at Mastro's where this Naked Wasted story was being told. She's someone who's kind of lying as part of this, so she wanted somebody else there as like a witness. And she does admit that that was a bit messy of her. Like, listen, she's not admitting to being perfect in this situation. She admits she was being a bit messy there, and that she wanted Gina there, one, so that she could see her reaction to the story, but also to sort of prove that what she's saying is true, because Katie told me the Gretchen Naked Wasted thing, and she told me the Gina Asian designer thing. These are the two things she told me in that conversation. So she's trying to prove that that's why she told that story. Now, she said that the only reason it went anywhere was because in January, when Gretchen was announced to be coming back to the show, she was like, wait, maybe I should get to the bottom of whether there's any truth here, because the allegation was that something illegal happened. Now, of course, this was 17 years ago, but there's no like statute of limitations on drugging someone. So from her perspective, she's like, wait, I feel like, you know, I'm kind of worried this is going to be a storyline. And with fans sort of, you know, taking the whole RHONY and Bryn thing last year, it being just so icky and dark and just evil, she just felt like maybe I should find out if this is true. One, because it's illegal, and two, it's because I don't feel like the fandom can stomach like another season of something so sad and gross. So she went to one journalist, and that journalist was someone who works for the Daily Mail. And she said, listen, I don't want to be attached to this. I just want you to know, I just want to know if it's true. So that person went off to figure out if it was true. And that person came back to Kiki and said, no, it's not true. So then she felt fine about it and felt like, okay, it's not a big deal. Then the other journalist conversation, which is the one with David Quinn of People. Now, that was a conversation about a lot of different things. They were having lots of just conversations about different people, different things, which is something that just comes up in her business, where they're just having lots of off the record conversations. And in that conversation, they were talking about Katie and whether she was trustworthy. And that's when she brought up this story saying, well, this is this thing that Katie had told me. It turns out not to be true. So I'm not really sure if she's trustworthy or not. Now, she didn't know that Dave Quinn was then going to go and relay that information to Tamra. And so that wasn't great. And so she freaked out because she didn't want to be involved. She found out from Katie, basically. She was about to get on a plane to go to New York for business. And she gets a text from Katie saying, "Are you free to film tonight at 5?" And she's like, "Wait, what? About what?" And Katie's like, "I don't know. Can you do it?" And she's like, I'm getting on a flight. So when Katie said that she didn't respond at all, that's not true. She did respond. She just didn't really get much information from Katie or really know what it was about. But she did freak out because she didn't want to be involved. And so she had two choices, basically. She could either let it play out or she could try to clear her name, which is what she did. And was that the wrong thing? Maybe. But I kind of feel like she was damned if she did and damned if she didn't, because if she didn't try to clear her name, everyone would just call her a liar. And if she does try to clear her name, everyone calls her a liar, right? So it's tough. She told production, like I said, that she'd only be willing to film if Gina were there because she just wanted to make sure that there was somebody else there who could be privy to this conversation and speak to whether it happened or not. And she said that she never had any communication with Katie ever again. And, the one thing that she is sorry about is that she's sorry that she told anyone about what Katie had told her because, that wasn't something that Katie had expected her to do, despite the fact that Katie is saying that she never told Kiki anything. But whatever, she is sorry for that. So will I say that she handled this perfectly? No, but I do feel like this interview with Carlos King gives a little bit more context as to why it got to where it did. Okay. And then Katie was on Two Teas in a Pod, and it was just Teddi this time. Tamra was not on it because Tamra can't really be on the episodes where it's about OC recaps or it's about anyone who's on the OC, basically. So the crux of this episode is mostly that Katie is blaming Scheana for telling Kiki the Gretchen Roofie rumor. But it really didn't come from Katie. It more so came from Teddi. Teddi was the one who initiated this. Teddi says, "So I heard that Scheana was the one that told Kiki the rumor, and then that's how it got spread around." And then Katie's like, "Oh, yeah, I heard that too." So then Kiki did end up, posting about this on Instagram. She did have something to say about it. So she said, "John Cougar Mellencamp's daughter is spreading lies on her podcast about me and Scheana Shay. This is the weirdest fucking sentence I've ever written in my life." Now, was that maybe the best thing for her to do? Probably not, right? And that's again what I'm saying about this media tour and it being so confusing. And it's like, when do you stop talking? When do you start? And then people started kind of coming at her and other people about not using Teddi's real name and Teddi going through her cancer battle. Listen, does Teddi have the right to spread this rumor on her podcast? Absolutely. That's what a podcast is. I think that, to kind of go the route of continuing to try to shut it down at a certain point, I feel like you just sort of have to cut your losses. And I feel like as soon as Scheana got brought into it is where Kiki starts to lose credibility because Scheana doesn't have credibility is the problem. Now, Kiki, of course, does the Radio Andy reality checks, but she also podcasts sometimes on Shenanigans with Scheana. And it's an opportunity, right? I don't know if I would turn down the opportunity. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. But yeah, she does do that sometimes. And because now she's affiliated with Scheana, it's sort of, yeah, taken away that credibility. I feel like a lot of people are making comments like, well, if she's friends with Scheana, then I know she's a liar. And it just really sucks to be attached to that because, again, it's like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Okay, and then Katie went on Entertainment Tonight with Bryce Sanders, and she said that another cast member, Tamra, said at the beginning of the season to production, "We need to give Gretchen Katie's orange. We want her out." So, I mean, I'm not sure which cast member said that. I'm sure it was Tamra that told her that. But listen, all of these women are always trying to get each other out. It's my understanding that they just bother Alex Baskin all day long with their gripes about who they hate and who they don't. And so but at the end of the day, do I think it was a conspiracy theory against Katie this whole season to try to get her out? Yes. Do I think that was smart of the cast? Absolutely not. That never, ever, ever works. And when asked about how Kiki would know the exact same reading of a moment about the hospital thing, Katie says, I don't know the answer to that. But that's funny because then she goes on Two Teas in a Pod and she's like, oh, I did hear about the Scheana thing, right? So you have no idea how Kiki knows that, but now you're also sort of corroborating the Scheana thing. Then Tamra went on Jeff Lewis and she spoke her piece on it. And she said that Gretchen told her twice that she went to the hospital. So I think we only got to see that on camera once, but it actually happened twice, another time that they cut. So it just shows again that Gretchen, you did say this. Like, it's insane for you to continue to double down that you didn't say this when you've accidentally said it so many times. Then Tamra said that Katie had lunch with Kiki and told her Gretchen went to the hospital, and Slade told her not to say anything because Gretchen could get in trouble. So even Tamra's saying it. And, she even says that her doubling down on not telling Kiki is where she's sort of losing people, including Tamra. Now, even though Katie and Tamra, or sorry, Tamra is the only person that Katie is talking to right now, even Tamra is saying, like, I don't really know why she's doubling down on this Kiki thing because it's very obvious that she did tell Kiki. And then Tamra talks about how Gretchen has been going after her for years, blah, blah, blah. How she blames Gina Keogh for telling Tamra's son to bring Gretchen to the bathroom the night of Naked Wasted. Okay, I mean, I still don't really know that entire situation, but yeah, she's trying to blame someone else as opposed to herself and her son. Now, as I've mentioned before, a lot of people are so focused on everything else that's happening here as opposed to what actually happened the night of Naked Wasted, which is where people were trying to get Gretchen absolutely piss-ass drunk to the point where Tamra's son was trying to take advantage of her. So Tamra trying to like minimize that and trying to blame that on other people is really annoying. And it's really annoying that she's actually been able to get away with it this entire season or this entire time, this entire 17 years, quite frankly. She does confirm that David Quinn is the journalist who told the story from Kiki. So I think she actually heard it from David Quinn twice. And he said, listen, I'm telling you this because Gretchen is coming back and he just wanted to make sure she knew. And Tamra wanted to confront Gretchen about it, which makes sense. But like, if you think about it, why is nobody mad at David Quinn, right? He's the one who actually told Tamra. He's the one that actually spread this. Because let's say Kiki told Katie, which she did, and she didn't expect it to go anywhere. And then Kiki told two people and didn't expect it to go anywhere. None of these people were trying to get this out there. The person that ended up getting this on camera was Dave Quinn, if you think about it, right? And no one is mad at him for saying something that was off the record because it was off the record when he talked to Kiki. So no one's mad at him for that. No one's mad at him for bringing this alleged crime to camera. No one's mad at him for bringing this storyline, right? It is all him. He's the one that brought it here. So that's just interesting that nobody is really focusing on this person. And maybe it's because he hasn't said anything, right? Maybe that's the answer. Maybe he is the one doing the right thing here because he hasn't said a goddamn word while Kiki keeps trying to defend herself. And maybe that's to her detriment. So she did go on Jeff Lewis as well. And she said that she thinks that Katie wanted to spread information based on how quickly she threw her under the bus. By that, she means like, yeah, she did think that Katie was trying to give her information for Kiki to try to spread it. She did say that Katie would send her like articles and other little things. And she was like, is she sending me this because she wants me to like spread this or like put this out there? But based on how quickly she threw under the bus, she's like, yeah, that's exactly what she was trying to do. She did say that she trusted Dave Quinn. So that's really sad for Kiki, especially when you feel like you have, trusted people in this space and they betray you. That's, that really sucks. She said, like I said, that they were talking about a bunch of things and that she shared this information, but didn't know that he would tell Tamra, and that Katie has since blocked Kiki. So she blocked Katie's husband and kids. So that's where we are now. Now, what I thought was best would be if Kiki had someone in her corner who is super liked and powerful that could sort of speak on her behalf. Because my feeling was if she went on shenanigans and her and Scheana just denounced what Teddi said, it just wouldn't hold a lot of weight or value because, like I said, Scheana doesn't hold a lot of credibility. But then what did they do? They went and did exactly that. They went and talked about it on shenanigans. And I have to say, I just don't think that was the best move. And I don't think the best came out of that. And I'll explain why. So on shenanigans, Kiki explains that she only hung out with Katie that one time. She came on reality checked. Katie knew that she had told the Kiki story. Then she brought up the Gina rumor. She knew it was about the journalist. Then she followed up with the journalist who confirmed. Then she got contacted by producers. And so, like I said, in order to prove like it really happened, she decided to bring up the Gina story also to see Gina's reaction, to see if Gina would also sort of confirm that that story is true. Then they make the two T's the Jax-hole of the day, because at the end of Scheana's podcast, she always likes to do a Jax-hole, which is basically like an asshole. And they sort of turn it around on Tamra. So even though Tamra wasn't there, they're blaming it on the fact that Tamra has like final say over like how the episode goes out. And she feels, or this is more so Scheana, she feels like this is defamation against her. These are false claims against Scheana. And Scheana feels like that this is really not smart of them to do because they could bring the law into it. And because Tamra has editing control, she should have made sure that that wasn't in there. And Kiki said that Tamra knows the entire true, real story because Kiki told her that at BravoCon. So, yeah, listen, I don't have the definition of defamation in front of me, but I just don't think this is really that. And I really don't think it was the best route of Scheana to sort of play the legal card in this regard, because this is reality TV. This is people spreading rumors about people, which is allowed. And, you know, is Teddi allowed to say that she heard this rumor? Sure. Is Kiki also allowed to be like, she's a liar? Sure. Everything everybody's doing here is actually kind of fine, right? I just feel bad for everyone involved, especially Kiki, just because I feel like she's gotten herself wrapped up in something that I think she wishes she hadn't, right? So now I want to talk about my theory as to why Katie is dying on the hill that Kiki did not tell her about the Roofie rumor. Here is it. I think she's dying on this hill because she wants to make sure that she ruins Kiki a little bit. Because listen, this whole Kiki thing has ruined Katie in a sense, right? It's ostracized her from the group, it's ostracized her from the show. And while she is getting good fan reception right now, that is more so because the whole group is icing her out, and the fandom doesn't like that. But in terms of the Kiki of it all, she feels betrayed by Kiki. Now, even though she's trying to claim that Kiki never told her the Roofie rumor, okay, Katie, she does confirm that she told Katie the Gina Asian designer rumor, right? So she could at least feel betrayed by Kiki in that regard, because she feels like everything that she told Kiki was off the record. And Kiki, at the very least, went and repeated that. So because Katie feels like Kiki tried to ruin her, she feels like she wants to try to ruin Kiki. So I feel like she's trying to die on the hill that Kiki never told her the Roofie rumor, because she knows it'll make Kiki look like a liar, it'll make Kiki look like a clout chaser, and it'll ruin Kiki's credibility and her business a little bit. Because remember, Katie knows who Kiki was. Katie followed Kiki. She thought that she was a very cool journalist. So what could Katie do to try to take Kiki down? Try to discredit her as a very cool journalist and call her a liar. And that is why I think that Katie is trying to die in this hill. That's my theory. And I'll discuss it more with Bravo, Bravo, Decking Bravo tomorrow. But that's what I have to say on the OC. It does look like, you know, Katie's not going to be in the next few episodes, or probably for most of the rest of the season. It does seem like it will still be a good season regardless. But, you know, it's been a difficult road for me, because I'm like, okay, yeah, like Team Katie, she's definitely being ostracized here and singled out. But at the same time, she is still lying on people I know and lying in certain regards. So it's hard. It's hard to be on her side 100%. But I guess that's life, right? You can never love someone 100% in any regard. So I guess Team Katie to a degree is where I am. Okay, so let's move on to the Valley. And so, as we know, last week, Brittany went to Cabo with her new man, Brandon Hanson, and there were so many paparazzi pictures taken, which Brittany claims were not paparazzi pictures. She said on her podcast that, you know, they didn't see anyone. They were out on the beach, and then all these pictures were taken. I don't know. Who cares? But anyways, Gigi Golnesa from Shaws of Sunset, who's going to be on that new spinoff show called like the Valley Persian Style, she made a comment on one of these pictures of Brittany and her new man in Cabo, said, no shade, but is she pregnant too? I mean, he's holding her belly, and the belly is definitely bellying. What the fuck, Gigi? What a fucking bitch. So even what's her name? Kristen came out of the woodwork and was like, absolutely not. You're disgusting. How dare you say that? And so did Zach. He made a comment saying, no shade. I thought about not responding because I don't usually respond to trolls, but you're a troll who should know better. So I figured, why not? well, no shade, but your horrible personality is on display with comments like this. And that is body shaming, and you know it. Comments like this are unnecessary speculation over women's bodies, is harmful and quite frankly gross. Now, 100%. And Brittany even responded to this on her own podcast saying, like, she wasn't even like posing in certain angles because they didn't know people were going to be there. No, it's not a pregnancy announcement. If it was a pregnancy announcement, it would be an announcement, right? It's funny because Gigi, of all people, she's the one who got Lala and Kristen in that years-long fight because it was Gigi and Lala who were on No Filter with Zach Peters' podcast. It was like a live show, and Gigi was talking all this shit about Lala because she was friends with Randall. And to Lala, watching the videos, it appeared that Kristen was sort of laughing at what Gigi was saying, but that wasn't true. She was just sort of turning away. So Gigi is kind of a jerk, right? But it's funny because it's really good that Kristen came out of the woodwork and supported her friend here because I feel like that's what Lala had wanted so much from her at the end of the day in that realm, in that respect, when that incident happened. So, now here she's stepping up for her friend, and I'm sure that Lala has seen that as well and really appreciates that. But yeah, like, fuck off, Gigi. Also, it's been the first week of filming for season 3 of The Valley. So we've seen a few pictures. We've seen Lala filming, Michelle and Janet. Now, it was Sosa's first birthday the other day, and it looked like Lala threw a huge party. So I don't know if that was filmed, but there was definitely a sip and see for Kristen's baby and Nia's baby. And it looked like the rest of the cast were there, but not those three. I even saw Schwartz in the background and even Lacey, which is Jesse's girlfriend. So I did hear that she is filming for this season, or at least a little bit. In some of the pictures I've seen, she seems like pretty like light and fun and happy. And like from what we knew of her, we only knew her as kind of like this sourpuss where we'd only heard all about all this stuff on the back end about her trying to sue everyone and their mother. But like watching her in her sort of natural elements and in her, just having fun, it seems like she might actually be sort of a kind, nice person, which seems crazy because again, she was trying to sue everybody. So I hope we do get to know a little bit more about her. And I'm also very curious what she sees in Jesse. I'm just very curious. Like, listen, he's charming, of course, but he's also awful. So yeah, I would love to get more about her and to find out what really happened at the end of last season. And Michelle also posted this picture of herself in a workout class, and she was making eyes at this guy. I forget his name because he's like a real comedian, Alex Amini or something like that. Maxamini? I don't know, but she was making like the eye contact she was making with him made it really look like she was like interested in him or really excited about him. Listen, I could be wrong. Who knows? I'm really excited to know that The Valley is filming and to know that we are going to be getting some dating, right? Like, I want to see Brittany going on dates with her man. I want to see Michelle dating. Like, that is part of adulting life once you get separated from someone. So I am excited to see that play out. But yeah, as the weeks go on, I'm sure we'll see more filming. It does seem like Jeremy Maddox and his fiance Rachel were at the Sip and See. I don't know if that means they're filming. I hope not, but there you have it. So that is it on The Valley. Now, the Real Housewives of New Jersey, we have been waiting to get like some word on that. And what I did hear from Page Six is that the Real Housewives of New Jersey started test filming without Teresa, meaning that they might be moving forward without her. So I'm just going to read you guys this article from Page Six. It says, the Real Housewives of New Jersey has reportedly started test filming for season 15 without Teresa Giudice. There are potential new cast members who filmed with Margaret Josephs, Dolores Catania, and Melissa Gorga in mid-August, an insider told Us Weekly on Thursday. They want to see how the new girls work on camera with some veteran cast members from the show. The insider added that while Giudice 53 wasn't involved in the test shoot, she, along with friends Jackie Goldschneider and Jen Fessler, are still in consideration to be part of the new season. One of the potential newcomers being eyed for the network is said to be podcast host Michelle Barone, who happens to be close with Giudice and Goldschneider. Test filming is a common practice in reality TV done before official production begins. A rep for Bravo, also Page Six, said that no official casting decisions have been made as of yet. A rep for Giudice did not immediately respond to Page Six's request for comment. Last season, close with Giudice, Jennifer Aiden, Catania, Gorga, Josephs, Danielle Cabral, and Rachel Fuda among the cast, as well as friends of Goldschneider and Fessler, though that list appears to be changing very soon. Bravo exec Andy Cohen revealed that new casting was happening on the popular franchise earlier this summer. We are doing casting on New Jersey, Cohen said in June. It was really on a deep pause, and we are actively there casting and looking at the future of what this will be. He also assured fans that the show wouldn't be on the chopping block at the network, adding that he believes Real Housewives of New Jersey is a great franchise and we love it. Now, agreed, it's weird. Like we don't want to lose it, but it's also been like so many years since it's been good in a way. And I've talked about this before where I feel like a few bad seasons of a show will ruin the future of it or make it sort of not good. Like I loved New Jersey, but now like meh, like if it never came back, I wouldn't really care because it sort of just feels so far gone in terms of how long it's been since it's been on, slash how long it's been since it's been good. Also, very interesting that they are interested in Michelle Barone. So Michelle Barone was on my podcast a few weeks back. She was one of those below deck guests, those charter guests that ended up in that crazy situation where their friend Kelly was like screaming at the crew. So she is really, really cool. She became friends with Teresa Giudice pretty recently, but yeah, she did tell me that she test shooted. So she wouldn't be test shooting if Teresa wasn't going to be on it. She's Teresa's friend. So I don't really know that much about this test shooting stuff, right? Like this page article 6 says, it's part of the reality TV process, but it doesn't mean that other people are not going to be involved. Maybe Teresa doesn't need to test shoot because they already know what she is and what she does. I don't really know, but it doesn't make sense for them to be considering casting Michelle Barone if they're going to be getting rid of Teresa. So I just want to put that out there and say that I think that that means something. Okay, let's move on to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So, as you guys know, Denise and Aaron's divorce is literally a new drama every single week. And the drama of this week is that Denise is asking for spousal support from Aaron. You recall that originally he was asking for this from her, and I was like, this motherfucker asking her for spousal support when he doesn't work, when he spends like $100,000 a month on clothes. Like, what? Just don't buy that many clothes. Absolutely just trying to take advantage of her. So then when I heard this, I was like, wait a second. So I saw this in People. I'm just going to read you guys this article. So it says, Denise Richards is making new requests amid her ongoing divorce from ex Aaron Phypers. The 54-year-old actress submitted a response to Phypers' July petition for divorce on Wednesday, September 3rd, according to documents obtained by People. In her filing, Richards asked that Phypers, 52, pay her spousal support and that the court terminate its ability to award him support. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that you could ask for one and terminate the other. Okay, I see. So she also requested that Phypers be responsible for her attorney's fees, damn straight, and stated that the full nature and extent of her separate property assets and debts are unknown at this time, as is that of their community assets. Richards listed their date of separation as TBD, although Phypers previously said it was July 4th. In a statement to People, Phypers responded to Richards' new request saying, Denise Richards is attempting to humiliate me again, just as she did with her first ex, Charlie Sheen, 6 years ago today. It is the same vengeance playbook as Charlie said. Dee and her legal posse only deal in fiction. My day in court is painfully overdue. She is behaving like a coward, and the truth will prevail, he said. I too will be vindicated when the truth comes out, just as Charlie promised. Our family will be ruined by Denise's lies of promising to end a year-long affair. Richard's divorce attorney, Brett Berman, previously denied Phypers' allegations about the actress having an affair, calling them false. Okay, so basically she's like, fuck you, man. Like, you're trying to take money from me? Well, then I'm going to try to take money from you. Now, obviously, he doesn't have any because he doesn't have a job. And, that spousal support will be based on the money that he has. But I think she's doing it as a more of a like stick it to you kind of thing. And I think it's funny, hilarious even, that he's bringing Charlie Sheen into it, of all things. Because what happened this past weekend? Well, Charlie Sheen and Denise Richards were on a red carpet together for the first time in 19 years, and it was beautiful. They hugged, they posed together. It was lovely. So it seems like their relationship is fine, Aaron. So shut the fuck up. Also, Charlie Sheen is going to be in a new Netflix documentary about himself. And we've heard a little bit from it. We've heard that apparently he decided to let everyone know that he flipped the book over and had a lot of sexual relationships with men. And he said that it was extremely liberating for him to talk about that now. Now, I don't know much more about that because I think we're going to get more about that in the documentary. And there's nothing wrong, obviously, with being bisexual. The only issue I have with it is if you go back and listen to my deep dive on Denise Richards that I did, Be True Hollywood Story, you will hear all of the very, very horrifying things that Denise found out about him that I read from court documents, a lot of which imply that he was into not just men, but underage boys and girls. There was a lot of pedophilia porn that was found by Denise that more than implied that the porn was catering to underage boys and underage girls. So, Charlie Sheen is still like a yucky individual and is adorable as it was to see him and Denise on the red carpet together like it was 2002 and seeing them all happy. There's also that ick factor where I'm just like, ugh, Charlie Sheen, right? I just know too much about you. Also, I don't know if you guys know this, but Charlie Sheen and his daughter, Sami, just don't have a great relationship. That came up a bit on that show that Denise had, Denise Richards and Her Wild Things. But actually, Charlie spoke to OK Magazine about this in terms of his daughter. And I'm going to read you guys this article from OK. It's called Charlie Sheen Claims He Doesn't Know Why a Strange Daughter Sami Won't Talk to Him, but he has absolute faith that they will reconcile. So it says Charlie Sheen is spilling the tea on his chaotic life like never before. Ahead of the Tuesday, September 9th debut of his memoir, The Book of Sheen, the actor appeared on Good Morning America to chat about everything under the sun with Michael Strawn. He said at one point, Strawn 53 asked the Emmy winner if his relationship with his 5 kids has evolved since getting sober around 8 years ago. And he said, "We have relationships and we have legitimate ones," a 60-year-old explained. "They really have nothing to do with anything that I do for a living because up to a certain age, they don't care about what your ratings are." Sheen shares daughter Cassandra 40 with ex Paula Profit, daughters Sami 21 and Lola 20 with ex Denise Richards, and 16-year-old twins Bob and Max with ex-wife Brooke Mueller. The NFL alum pressed about his estrangement from Sami. "I feel like as long as everybody is still in the game, there's always a shot for better tomorrow," Charlie shared. "I don't really know what I did. That's the problem. I don't know what I'm supposed to apologize for. But I have absolute faith that it's not a forever thing. Her and I will work it out," he insisted. "We have a history of that. It's too valuable to let some moment destroy all of that." However, the OnlyFans star has explained that she keeps her distance from Charlie due to his past drug use. Earlier this year, she referred to his troubles in a TikTok where she mouthed along to a quote from a 2020 interview he did in 2011. After the reporter asked if there were drugs in his home, the father of 5 replied, "If there are, you better find them and give them to me immediately. No, there are not. Not that I know of. If I know about them, I'll find them and throw them away. It's not a big deal. Oh, drugs in the house. Ah, we're all gonna die," he mocked. Sami added text on screen that read, "When people wonder why I haven't spoken to my dad in a year, but this is my dad," pretty much sums it up. Sami also touched on their dynamic during an April episode of Denise Richards and Her Wild Things. "Me and my dad haven't really spoken much in the past 5 months. It goes in very big chunks with him," she explained. "I think for the first 13 years of my life, it was pretty bad, and then we were okay for a couple years, and now it's just okay." The girls have been through a lot with their dad, the Melrose Place alum 54 noted. "I understand why Sami feels the way she does. It hasn't always been perfect with her and Lola either, with any of his kids. So I hope that he does recognize that because he's missing out. He really is missing out," Sam emphasized. So, it's really sad, obviously, when, children don't have a good relationship with their parents. I don't have a relationship with my mom because she is a narcissist. And for the majority of my life, it was very on and off because, you as a child, you do always want to try to make that relationship work or always want to try to see the best in your parents. And what's interesting about that is I feel like Denise spent so much of her life really, really trying to protect her children from knowing anything bad about their dad, not realizing that one day, obviously, they would be old enough to be able to Google him and see for themselves, which they have done now, right? And so they've made their decisions based on what they've been able to read and what they've seen about his past. And she wasn't really able to shelter them from that in the same way that she thought that they would. Now, does that mean that Sami will never have a relationship with her dad? Like, I don't know, right? Who knows? But it's complicated. And I think it's fair that it's complicated when you have a parent who has a past with drug and alcohol abuse. It's just not that simple. So for him to say, like, "I really don't understand and I don't really know what I have to apologize for," maybe he should ask her, right? Maybe he should ask her. Okay, let's move on to The Real Housewives of Miami. So we're just going to do a little bit of a recap because the episode wasn't super fulsome and there really isn't a lot of news about it. So I just thought we'd chat about it. So Julia's still dealing with the dynamic with her daughters not accepting her new family, meaning the boys. But one of her daughters recently said, I love you in a communication, so she feels like there's hope. Now, I still find this whole thing very strange. And this is another situation where I feel like we're not getting a lot of the information. The same as like with Stephanie and her sisters. Why aren't you friends with your sisters? Like, what happened there? And so, what I'm sort of missing is why Julia's daughters are so butthurt about this situation. Because to me, it feels like that they're old enough to go off and do their own thing. And that's what they have been doing, which is sort of why Julia and Martina wanted to adopt the boys because they felt like they were empty nesters. So I could be wrong, but I'm assuming, because we don't have the information, that the reason the girls are upset is because they feel like they're being replaced. Or maybe it is more so just that they weren't as involved in the process as they wanted to be. I'm not really sure. But, I feel like that whole concept, and we talk about this like we just did about Charlie Sheen, and we talk about it a bit more here when we talk about Kiki and her father. There's like this weird dichotomy, these two concepts of like, family's always family and you should always forgive them and you should always love them. And then the other stance, which is the stance that I'm on, which is like just because someone is family doesn't mean that you have to forgive them and you have to love them. So I could sit here and say, like, Julia's kids will come around. I'm sure they will, but I don't really know the situation, right? And if they decide that they don't want to have a relationship with their parents anymore, that is their right. I mean, it is sad. And then we move on to Kiki's situation, right? So Kiki had the situation with her father where he kicked her out when she was really young because she wanted to go model, which was basically considered like porn in Haiti. And she's dealing with this recent situation where all of her extended family members believe that she's super rich in the US and that she should be giving them money and that they've been like threatening death to her for like not giving them money, I guess. So apparently her dad has stepped up to the plate to the family and made sure that, they step off. So that's great. But when she confronts him about the kind of father that he was, he's sort of like, well, look at all the cameras around you. You wouldn't have all these cameras around you if it wasn't for what I did to you. And it's like, okay, but it's that whole lack of accountability thing that parents do. And I think it's a parent thing. First, I just thought it was a my mom thing, but I think it's a parent thing because listen, as parents, all parents make mistakes, but I feel like that is the biggest like insult that you can make to a parent is to tell them that they've made a mistake because the thing that every parent wants to be is the best parent, right? And you also can't go back as a parent and make changes to things that you did in the past. So I think that for a lot of parents, when they are confronted with mistakes they made, they either get defensive or they laugh it off or whatever, right? And so it's annoying that he's not really taking accountability, but I guess I'm happy for her if she's enjoying having him back in her life. Okay, let's move on to Lisa and Jodi because I feel like their relationship I kind of want to look at with a little bit more of like a magnifying glass because listen, initially I thought they were this beautiful, perfect couple, but now that the divorce is finally settled, I'm looking at them a little different. Like Lisa's sitting there being like, I miss being a missus. It's so weird not having a ring on my finger. And Jodi's like, and he even tells the camera, like, it is hard to be in any relationship, let alone one with her, let alone, one with someone on a reality TV show because first he felt like he was dealing with so much drama because of her divorce. Now he's dealing with so much drama because of like the friends. And he even admitted on camera that like, yeah, it's led to us to have such terrible fights that sometimes we have to sleep in different rooms. And Lisa's like, shh, no, 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 shh. And so it's really funny to see her again try to portray a relationship more perfect than it is. She did the same thing with Lenny. I remember her taking like in that final season when he like literally, I think it may have been the same episode or an episode later where he like has a hot mic moment and tells his friend that like he's done with her. She's like trying to sit on his lap. She's like, pretend that you love me, pretend that we're happy, give me a kiss, right? Just this very fake sort of thing. And it makes me wonder if Lisa is more interested in being married for like, you know, the look of it, for like the ambiance of it, for like the sake of it, rather than actually being in love and being married. Like I just assumed that she really loved Jodi, but now I'm not really sure. I'm not sure if she's just with Jodi to be with someone. He seems great. He seems lovely. Well, until this season, I don't really love the whole like him and Larsa texting thing. But I think this show does something to people. I'll say that, right? Like, look at Todd. I think that a lot of these men hear about the show and they're like, okay, maybe it'll be good for me, or maybe I just want to support my partner. And then when they get so deeply involved in it to the point where the internet is coming at them or coming at their businesses or whatever it is, I think they can't handle it, right? And I feel like a lot of these men are like, listen, pick me or the show because I just don't want to be involved in this anymore. And I feel like for a lot of these women, they rather pick the show. But I can also understand why for the house husbands and the men, like this isn't really worth it to them. First of all, they're not being paid, right? Um, Husbands don't get paid. So for them, especially, it just doesn't really seem worth it for like all the gripe and all the things that you're going to have to deal with in your real personal life on the back end, whether it comes to like the fandom or people Googling you or people like trying to come at you in your real life. I can understand how that could be really fucking awful and why you kind of don't want to be with a housewife. It just, I wish they had realized that before because it really sucks for these women, especially Alexia, with the whole Todd situation. We have Marisol and Stephanie hashing out their whole like plane situation. And Marisol explains that it really wasn't about Stephanie. It wasn't about Stephanie wanting to kick her off the plane if she misbehaves. It was more just like Alexia wanted to do her own thing. So she wanted to be with Alexia, stayed behind with her. But then we get some like flash forwards in time and like some different conversations. And then we get something that apparently when Stephanie talks to Alexia, Alexia actually blames the whole staying back and Savi thing on Marisol. So now Stephanie thinks Marisol is two-faced. So that's basically where we're ending there. So hopefully we get a little bit more in Miami this season because like I said, it's been okay, but it hasn't been like I don't know, it hasn't really kept me like super jazzed and super into it. So I hope that it does. And I hope, this Stephanie Marisol thing goes somewhere because it might be interesting. Okay, let's move on to Next Gen NYC. So Damon Dash, the father of Ava Dash, star of Next Gen NYC, is filing for bankruptcy. So this is really interesting. Damon Dash, who, as we know, is involved with um, sorry, I'm trying to find. Oh yeah, Rockefeller Records, and his ex-wife is Rachel Roy, which is Ava's mom. You guys should also go back and listen to the episode that the Bravo docket did on Damon Dash because they explained this bankruptcy in great detail. But I'm going to read you guys this article from People, which gives us a sense of what is going on here. So. Damon Dash has filed for bankruptcy, alleging in court documents that he's more than 25 million in debt and he has just over $4,000 to his name. Jeez, that's not good. The music executive and entrepreneur 54 filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Florida on Thursday, September 4th, listing his total liabilities at 25.3 million according to court documents obtained by People. Dash, who co-founded Rockefeller Records with Jay-Z and Kareem Burke in 1994, listed his monthly income at zero and said he does not own a house, car, or any electronics, save for his $500 cell phone. He said that his personal assets, including his phone, two guns, jeez, clothes, and $100 in cash are worth $4,350. The documents say Dash's domestic support obligations are more than $647,000, and he owes the government 19.1 million in taxes and other debts. Dash owes hundreds of thousands to his ex-wife Rachel Roy, with whom he shares daughter Ava, 25, and Tallulah, 17, as well as Cindy Morales, the mother of his son Lucky, 21, and Linda Williams, mom to his son Boogie, 33. I didn't know there were so many other kids. Dash said he is owed a possible but unknown amount from Burke, with whom he co-founded Rockefeller. The day after he filed for bankruptcy, Dash posted a screenshot of a news headline about his filing to Instagram. Now let's get to work. Hashtag stay tuned, he captioned in the post. On the day he filed, he shared a video to Instagram talking about his health struggles while spending time with his 4-year-old son, Dusko, whom he shares with fiance Raquel Horn. I just want to thank everyone that checked in on me, he said, noting he's recently undergone successful eye and teeth surgeries. Dash previously opened up about his money struggles in an Instagram video shared in August 2024, in which he said he was curious to see how it all rolls out. Somebody asked me how I got broke, investing in my dreams. When you're investing in your dreams and you dream big, you're always going to be broke, he said. It's a weird thing to say. In November 2024, the New York state government purchased Dash's 1/3 share in Rockefeller at an auction for $1 million in an attempt to recoup the nearly $9 million he owes in back taxes. The New York Post reported the outlet the New York Post reported, sorry. The outlet reported that Dash was previously listed as the 27th most tax delinquent New York resident. What? I didn't know there was like ratings for who is the most tax delinquent. That's crazy. Well, I think that maybe speaks to why this guy is so like invested in Next Gen NYC. Like he was like on the show. Like he would talk to Ava on the show and ask about the other characters and ask what was going on with them as if like he just seemed to really want to be involved in like a Seth Marks sort of way. And I'm wondering if he's trying to like, you know, get himself a little bit more on the show to see what happens there. It also reminds me of like that restaurant that he was trying to sell or something, and he was going to have Charlie put money into it. I don't know. He did not come off as broke during that show. I mean, this show is about basically a bunch of Nepo babies. So to hear that he is this broke and that he keeps talking about it too, it's sort of interesting. He's like, hey, everyone, I'm going bankrupt. What does everyone think? Let's get to work. Is sort of an interesting approach to that. But yeah, I mean, definitely interested to hear more about this on next season of Next Gen NYC. And maybe it'll humble Ava a little bit because the thing about Ava is I really liked her on the show, but she did sort of come off as like, I'm better than you sort of mentality. And so maybe this will, take her down a few pegs. All right, let's move on to our last topic today, which is Southern hospitality. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but Ally Lewber has sort of been out and about in Charleston for the past few months, and it does seem like she's been hanging with the Southern hospitality folks. Now, she obviously met them a long time ago in terms of the Bravo sphere. Maddie and James Kennedy actually had DJ'd together before. So, Ally's family does live in Charleston. Her parents do live in Charleston. So it does make sense for her to be there. But she definitely has been filming with them. I've seen her like in certain outfits and in certain events, which were obviously being filmed. But what I'm hearing is that she's not necessarily part of the cast. So I'm going to read this article that I saw on Reality Blurb, which is actually it's kind of an offensive article. I'm not going to lie, but we can talk about it after the fact. So it says, Ally has been filming for Southern Hospitality, said an insider speaking to OK. She's definitely trying to be featured on the show, but the source claimed Ally hasn't filmed anything special. She doesn't have a role in the show, said the insider. She won't be a cast member. She's dying to be famous. She's so thirsty. She's dehydrated, the insider alleged. Her family lives in Charleston, but she wants the limelight and to be a reality star so badly. Meanwhile, Ally confirmed on social media that she relocated. She had written, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just living and letting this eclipse tell me what to do. Ha ha ha, said the star on Instagram. So yeah, that was kind of bitchy. I don't know who this source is, but it's just an interesting concept if you think about it. I'm curious why Ally Lewber never got the whole fan it, mentality and why she has been able to continue in the Bravo sphere sort of unscathed. Because if you think about it, the way that she met James Kennedy was as a fan. She went with her friend Zachary Reality, who is a blogger, to go take content for his content. And she had seen Vanderpump Rules. She knew who he was. She engaged with him and they started dating. And pretty much as soon as he stopped being on the show, a few months after that was the DV allegation. She broke up with him. And then she went on to have her amazing podcast. She's now hanging out with the Southern Hospitality crew. She's been seen, rubbing shoulders with lots of Bravo people. And it wouldn't be crazy for her to end up on another one of these shows. But why has she been allowed to do so without anyone really saying anything or calling her like a clout chaser, except for this article, obviously, except for the person who is this inside source? I feel like for the most part, Ally has been allowed to, come up off of James Kennedy without anyone saying anything about it. And I think the reason is she's just genuinely really nice. All the people in the Bravo sphere who she is friends with genuinely really like her and genuinely really value her as a friend. So I guess it's probably just because she's a really good person and they've decided like, hey, you may have been a fan at some point, but we're not going to call you a fan or treat you like a fanit or do any of that stuff because we really, really like you as a person. Now, that being said, that could have been how it was for Janet for a certain period of time. And then after so many years and so many trials and tribulations, people decided to be like, hey, you know what? You were a fanit, right? And that could happen to Ally Lewber too. But yeah, it is sort of interesting that she is sort of doing a lot of the same moves that if someone else did, they would be considered like a clout chaser and be dying to be on reality TV. But that's just, she's been allowed to just continue and grow and grow and grow in the reality TV space without being deemed cloudy and a clout chaser. And again, I think it's just because she's genuinely really, really nice. All right, those are all the topics that we have for today. So I'm really excited to see you guys back tomorrow when I podcast with Bravo, Ducking Bravo. So until then, please follow me on Instagram and TikTok at the Bravo Investigator. You can purchase my merch at hurrdatmedia.com. You can actually watch this episode on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. And I love you, BBs. I will see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator Podcast in partnership with Hurrdat Media. You can watch full-length videos on Hurrdat Entertainment's YouTube channel. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok at The Bravo Investigator. If you enjoy the show, please leave me a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.